Welcome to Love Boat.
Oh.
Episode 8. Right. That was a dramatic reveal.
You outdid me!
This
Oh,
is
woo!
the 8th episode of season 1. I'm your host this week, obviously, Mike Robertson, along with co-host Mike Taylor, and our special guest this week, Tanya Fortier. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So
wow, I'm impressed.
We always start with the initial question. Tan, have you ever been on a cruise?
I have been on a cruise.
Whoa.
You are first
Yes,
guest.
I have.
Tell us.
My 17th birthday, went on a cruise to Bermuda. Made out with one of the guys.
Of course you did. Of course you did. You're on a cruise.
Of course I did. I'm 17. We're in Bermuda.
What do people do on boats? Yeah. How many days was the cruise? How long was the duration?
I want to say, 17 was a long time ago, guys. I want to say that it was like 5-7 days. I was with my mom, dad, and one of my sisters. So my sister and I are 2 years apart. So her and I hung out a lot while my parents just kind of did their thing. But on a boat, you are legal to drink at 18. But since I was with my sister, no matter where I went, they were serving me alcohol. They didn't care. So I was 17, 1992 or something.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
And that seems to jive because there's a lot of booze in this episode.
Yeah.
Like specific booze, like actual drinks. But also, I guess you really can relate to the story of the child on the boat.
No.
No? You don't think it's the same story?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of differences between me and the child in the episode.
You and the runaway that was like 8? The indeterminate age?
You didn't see
I really think he wore better jewelry than me. He had really nice rings.
He had a lot of money. He had a lot more money than I had as a kid.
Theodore Dennison Jr. was well put together.
All right. So this is episode 8 of season 1, titled Lost and Found, The Understudy, and Married Singles, which I guess are good titles. They at least were explainable. We'll get into the ridiculousness of the storylines. These shows originally aired on November 19th, 1977. Mike, as you always enjoy, we see what was on elsewhere. It's the usual: Carol Burnett, probably The Flyers. But there was also a TV movie starring Frank Sinatra. Contract on Cherry Street.
Ooh.
The partner and best friend of a tough New York City police detective is murdered by killers working for the local mob.
Perfect.
Infuriated by the inability of the police department to bring the murderers to justice, he decides, with the help of a few of his fellow detectives, to operate on his own, using whatever means necessary to destroy the gang.
I'm surprised anybody watched The Love Boat if that was on.
Like, I almost wanted to do a show on that.
What are you people doing?
Yeah, Old Blue Eye sounds really spicy there. I don't know.
It's kind of slumming it, though, for Sinatra to do a TV movie, right? Like,
Or was it a TV movie?
Or was it a TV movie? They made a big deal about it being a TV movie.
They probably paid him a ton. They proved like an ABC special. We'll bring you back. You sing in the holidays. Like, it's a whole thing,
Yeah.
Making dough.
So despite that counter programming, we press on. So the stars this week: Steve Allen, Polly Bergen. They're the married couple, Derwood and Maisie, who are swinging. Sandy Duncan, Joanne Harris, and Jim Stafford. So, Ton, did you know any of these people at all from anything else?
Well, Sandy Duncan looked familiar, and then Buddy told me the story about, the eye. And then I had to look it up, and I was like, okay. And I don't know how she lost her. I don't even know why I'm laughing. It's a horrible thing to laugh at. I'm just, I guess, like nervous to talk about. I don't know, but I knew, I think, who she was, but it was 77. I was born in 74, so that's a little bit of a...
if you met them personally. Had you seen them?
No, like Carol Burnett. Like if Carol Burnett was on, but no, I haven't. Yeah, I didn't.
Mike, anybody ring a bell
Oh,
here?
a few of them here. I mean, number one, Sandy Duncan. I just remember the Wheat Thins commercials.
Oh, right.
I remember it was a big deal that she played like Peter Pan on Broadway, which as a young boy growing up just confused the crap out of me. Like, if Peter, I didn't know what was going on. And about the eye thing. So I have been following this controversy for years. As a kid, I was all about it. There was no Snopes. You just had to develop theories. My theory was this whole time she had a glass eye. But she doesn't. She lost the vision in her left eye. But the left eye continued to track with the right eye. So she didn't have it removed. She just couldn't see anything.
Well, that's good, I guess.
The only other thing is I had something special about James Bond III.
Not credited.
Not credited, which I think is what he was the star of Lost. I mean, there was 3 main characters in Lost and Found. How do you not? I credit him.
So I never actually hang around to the end of the credits. I had it on rolling, and I accidentally saw he got an introducing at the end,
but not in the beginning.
So is the fact that he is named James Bond III the reason he is not getting introduced? Is there is Ian Fleming like shutting that down? Or?
I bet this role, is for Gary Coleman.
I mean, it basically is Gary Coleman. Right?
It is Gary Coleman. Well,
yes.
Two things. I found out a little something about James Bond III. It's a little silly. So, James Bond III went on to write, produce, direct, and star in a movie in 1990 by the name of Death by Temptation. I love a movie synopsis. This is just a brief vision, a brief glimpse into the James Bond III vision. An evil succubus is preying on libidinous black men in New York City, and all that stands in her way is a minister in training, an aspiring actor, and a cop who specializes in cases involving the supernatural. Starring James Bond III,
obviously,
Kadeem Harrison,
Dwayne Wayne,
and Samuel Jackson.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
We need to just do these movies that we've talked about already.
Oh, Death by Temptation. It's already...
That plot already sounds like it makes more sense than this plot.
Fair enough.
It occurred to me that I did not actually write out the summary of the plots for this episode, which probably makes sense because they're nuts. So real quick, the easy to follow storyline is Julie is training Connie, who is trying to be an associate cruise director, and Connie basically is trying to go for Julie's job. The second one is Maisie and Durwood are married, but their marriage counselor has sent them to separate vacations, and so they end up on the same boat next to each other, and they decide to swing unsuccessfully. Spoiler. And then the third one, which has James Bond Jr., has Sandy Duncan, has Jim Stafford, who is a singer-songwriter.
Worst hairstyle I've ever seen, by the way.
Inspiration for the tux, though, because he looked really good.
He did good.
And really bad in those striped polo shirts.
He had really interesting hair.
Yes. I wrote a whole thing about his hair. We'll get to that.
So,
yeah.
After I watched the episode the first time, I actually watched it with people this time. I watched it with Michelle and Elizabeth. So my wife and her friend, we watched it. I got them to watch it. And we then hit Alexa up for little Jim Stafford music. And it's a trip, man. He's like spoken word. But like some of his song titles are Spiders and Snakes, Swamp Witch, Under the Scotsman's Kilt, and Turn Loose of My Legs.
And he's not from Scotland either. Like he's not.
He works in like not Nashville now or something.
I think Spiders and Snakes was his biggest.
That's like a real song. I had heard of that one. The other ones are just.
Not that I'm a big, I'm not a big Stafford head.
Yeah.
No.
I will. Since we're here with Jim Stafford, can we just talk about his hair real quick? And as someone who is a bit follically challenged, okay, listen. Above all, just there's a mystery going on with his hair, and I've looked in the front. It's like cut, like it's not just long and brushed over. I think the legit it's one big comb over, and then the front part of the comb over, he just cut it to look like a side part. It's all I could see in Sandy Duncan's left eye in this whole episode. Like I couldn't stop.
It's an interesting couple.
It was distracting.
So I accidentally watched the wrong episode at first, and then, obviously watched the correct one, this one. And I was noticing at that time period, we'll say like the 80s, 70s, 80s, people just, I don't really think they like brush their hair. They just kind of like went with it. Like, so a lot of the hairstyles are just kind of like, yeah, whatever, like.
Well, plus they're on a boat,
but his
to be
was,
fair. So.
His didn't move though. It was netted down.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like look at the combination of Jim Jones and Javier Bardem and No Country for Old Men.
Oh.
Which is an interesting way to style your hair.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
But he got Sandy Duncan, so good for him. Any last thoughts before we jump in?
No, I think the only other interesting thing is I found out about Steve Allen. Is that his first television experience came in 1949. He answered an ad to be an announcer for professional wrestling. So he worked for a small promotion in 1949.
I believe he was also a celebrity, quote unquote, at WrestleMania 6.
I believe you are correct. I remember that.
So he might be our first WrestleMania cast member.
Oh, wait till we catch up with that. Oof.
You guys have a lot of useless knowledge.
Have you seen the show? I mean,
yes.
No, in general, yes, I love it. Like,
it's just that this is just a more specific blend of nonsense. Is all it really is.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on the boat. The one thing about the credits that I will say is this probably is the most people we had that had actual roles that did not make the credits. Like usually we have like a couple or one person.
Right. Like
Ruth
Gordon. That one. Yeah.
Everybody in the Dennison family, which is the big storyline. Lonnie Anderson didn't make the credits. The insurance salesman didn't make the credits. And that horny old guy didn't make the credits. Like, and they all had multiple scenes with multiple speaking lines. So really deep bench considering what was that last week, Mike, that we had 4 people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it is interesting.
Weird.
It's interesting who they don't list. Because at the time, Lonnie Anderson, she had auditioned for the role of Chrissy. She didn't get it. She went on the season 2, 1978 in Three's Company. She went on to do like a 2-parter. Well, this whole thing eventually led to pictures in WKRP in I think 1978 or 1979. So like at the time, Lonnie Anderson wasn't a thing. Like she was just not an extra. She gets
a lot of lines for not being a thing.
She does. Yeah. She does.
Yeah.
I feel like she was the most. Her character was named Barbie, like ripped from the headlines.
She was the one I recognized the most, though, was Lonnie Anderson.
Yeah.
And speaking of comb overs, like I know that like people viewed her as like this, but man, she's got a whole hair situation as well. Like it's.
Now, there was a debate in the house when we were watching if that was a wig or not. I said no. The girls said
no.
If it was a wig, it'd be better.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really people and haircuts and hairstyles, I think they really just, it was something,
Even Julie, God love her, that's like a bowl haircut. Like it's just not good. Dude. It's not good.
Yeah, well, her and Sandy had the same haircut apparently. They had the same barber.
Well, even the swinging couple, she had short hair. They all had that like haircut. The boys and the girls all had that like.
Oh, maybe there's a boat barber that'll be coming up soon.
And if you're balding, just side part it. And no one just cut all their hair off. They were like, "Nope, I am sticking with it." Like hair had handles back then. They're like, "No, you got to hold on to it."
Stubing and Theo's dad have the same haircut, but we'll get to that. So.
I've not had it with Captain Stubing, but
all right, let's get on the boat. All right, so we open with Julie telling the guys that the cruise company has assigned a new trainee for her to break in. It's her, so everybody gets real horned up immediately. And like Isaac and Gopher are trying to like compete with Doc in the ways of a woman.
You can't. We've seen that Isaac is a little clingy. He can't. What's he doing?
Gopher might be slow. So like there's just no way they're going to compete with Doc.
Gopher's
Before they've
eating
even
eight
seen this
chips.
woman.
Yeah, and I told you, I think I texted you this, that I thought Doc was Alf's dad. I thought it was the same actor as Alf's dad
Willie?
the whole time. Yes, I'm watching this. I was like, how does Alf's dad have like this much cred with the ladies? Like, so it was very confusing to me because, it's Alf's dad, but it's not.
That's funny.
I wonder if Alf's dad makes an appearance. Probably not, right?
Oh, I wish Alf made an appearance.
Twin.
Oh.
Yeah, like Doc's brother.
Alf.
Yeah,
that would be really. Alf. Yeah, see, you could see how looking at that,
crazy.
Rewatch it. No, next time you watch a next episode, just be like, that does look like Alf's dad.
You said Alf, and immediately somebody said twins, and I thought, what about Ralph and Alf? What if Alf had a twin? Like, hello, get him on the boat.
Like Ralph, Gordon Shumway's brother, Ralph.
Yeah. They both eat cats.
That's ridiculous.
Love it.
Willie. Oh, yeah.
So they still haven't seen this Connie yet, and they're already like
all broomed up.
Good for them.
Yeah.
They're not.
They are at sea in their defense.
But they're still on.
No, they're not even at sea yet.
Right.
Fair enough. They're docked.
Like the Moosaloo. They're
attached to land.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Julie says she's here to learn the business, not get it, which I thought was great.
Julie, man, just cuts right through it.
So Connie shows up, and knockout, whatever. But seems sweet. And then Steubing just shows up out of nowhere, like he was just sitting up on the top of the crow's nest, just waiting.
He's
for fresh blood. And he comes down and kind of like invades her personal space.
He's so creepy.
And kind of knocks all the other guys out of there. So
well, it's funny because again, he has nothing to do because he's the captain of the ship. Why would he have anything to do where they're about to leave?
They're leaving. This seems like a very important time for him.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything with the boat this week.
It's a bunch of nonsense.
I did notice rewatching, the Love Boat is no one really has a job. Like they have a job, but no one does their job.
No one's doing their job.
No, and this honestly was probably the most. Isaac did a lot of bartending this week.
Yes.
But like Julie, she wasn't even planning anything because that woman kept stealing everything.
She's so vague. Her job is so vague. There's a clipboard. Well, we dug into that last week.
And then we got some more information. So the first thing Julie starts to train Connie on is how to check passengers in.
That's right.
They don't give us much, and all they say is make sure they know what room they're in. That's it. Doesn't say like, make sure we get ID or a full name.
No passport, no nothing.
Right,
is that even like a complete set of instructions?
No.
Like
they went to commercial or they went to break after that. So maybe there was a longer list. But it is weird to lead with make sure what room they get. So like don't have a weapon. That would be something.
Yeah. Don't not tell them what room they're in because they might have to ask you what room they're in. So we don't want to have them ask you because they're on vacation. So make sure.
The more information you get about the check-in process, the more confused I am.
It's too much, man. Yeah.
All right. So Steve Allen and Maisie check in with Gopher, and it turns out that they're neighbors on the Fiesta deck. That's all we got so far. And then they don't really explain the swinger story for a little bit. So we smash cut to Richard and Sharon Baker, which is Jim Stafford and Sandy Duncan. Richard Baker is actually from the same hometown as Julie, and they're kind of kibitzing about that, and that's great. Now, again, how they know that, because it's not like she checked ID or has an address of where he's from. So
is that a mandatory? Is it on Julie's name tag? Like, how sometimes in like stores it'd be like Melanie, 7-year veteran at this store, originally from Manitoba, like whatever. You ever seen those? Like, is that how did they know?
Maybe she has a Forest Grove look about her. And that's how
the smell of it.
A smell,
like, something.
Maybe it's the haircut. Maybe it's the haircuts.
Or she saw that. Maybe it is the haircuts. Good call.
So, okay. So this is the first. This is the first fork in the road for Connie. So as Sandy or as Julie and Jim Stafford are talking about Forest Grove, Connie comes over and asks if they have any kids and asks Sandy Duncan this directly. And Sandy Duncan just collapses and runs away. And it turns out that they had lost their child. We later find out that the child had died. But yeah, very, very, very deep for a Love Boat first 3 minutes. Very interesting. But the question is, did Connie know that they had a dead child and brought it up? Or was it just a coincidence?
I mean,
I don't know.
I know it's evil, right? It's pure evil, but is anything in this episode not
depends.
evidence that it's pure evil?
Unless maybe they were notes, maybe they were Julie's notes, or
Dead
like
kid, don't bring up
questions
the
to
dead kid.
ask, or something. Like, why did she come up with that specific question for those specific people when all she's supposed to do is make sure they know the room number?
Julie tries to like let her off the hook. Like, how would you have known? Obviously, like, how would you have known? And then goes after the bakers. And then Steubing shows up to see what happened. He's like, "Oh, you're doing a great job, Julie. You're left alone." She's like, "No, she had to go apologize about the dead kid crack." And there you go. That's the first one. She's already setting the seeds.
Yeah,
she's
no good. She's no good.
Yeah, but she's hot, so
she has a weird nose. I didn't think she was all that. She had a weird nose. Her nose was just. She had like.
You know who didn't think she had a weird nose? Her longtime lover, Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
I mean, that's humbling. That's humbling.
You're better than Clint Eastwood?
No.
Disagree.
No. Disagree.
All right. So then Doc tries to get Connie's room number off Gopher. And Gopher's
Creeper.
Like, no. Yeah. Gopher is protecting all the women on the boat. Because Doc's like, what if she gets attacked? And he's like, the only way she gets attacked is if I give you the boat or the room number, which is pretty good. Good for Gopher.
That's good.
Doc's a creep. He's canceled. So they're going through all this. Here comes Theodore Denizen Jr.
Love it.
Looking sharp.
Looking good.
Looking so sharp. Yeah.
So how much money did you have when you were, what are we saying he is? 8?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
What's the most money you would have had at 8 years old?
You can't work.
Well, he's a newspaper.
Against a child labor law.
He's a newspaper boy.
Okay.
Yeah, but
okay. So how much money is
back
that?
then? Yeah.
Like 50 cents?
Well, I was a paper boy. Middle school. Okay. And the worst thing in the world for someone who's a little shy socially is not only ask them to deliver newspapers, but then at the end or beginning of every month to knock on their door and ask them for money. So, I lasted 2 months, and when I was done, I owed the newspaper $400. My parents were pissed. That was it. So I'm not sure how it really works.
You lost.
No, I did because I didn't want to go to their door and ask.
To my point, you cannot have afforded this cruise that Theo Denizen Jr. did. So we have not been able to figure out how much these cruises cost. But he paid for it with his newspaper money. And he definitely had a room because Gopher said, one spot left. So
did he have his own room?
How did he get the money to the boat?
He had his own room too. Right. Because he was next to a couple that were like on a vacation. Right. So I'm sure like the equivalent of that.
In Barry Keyes' room. Or Doc's room.
No, he wasn't sharing a room.
Right. He's a little guy. They could have put him in like a closet. They could have put him in that closet and everybody gets changed.
But apparently he bought a
full
price ticket.
Child in 1977 transfer funds to a boat company.
Well, it's not like he has a pool of years. He could have made it. Yeah, everything was cash. So it's
and maybe he went down to the docks. Maybe his paper route was part of where they docked. Maybe that was part of his paper route.
This is a long con then.
It is a long con.
For a long time.
Yeah. Maybe he delivers newspapers to the cruise ship, to the Love Boat.
Maybe it's a Breaking Bad situation. Maybe he's delivering a little more than newspapers. How else could you afford that? Coming in, he's got all the latest like electronics, like what?
Cocaine in the cheesesteak.
Cocaine in the cheesesteak.
But you're talking about 1977, right? People could afford a lot of things back in 1977, right?
The newspaper was king back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this runaway child. I wonder if he was on the front page of the next day's paper.
Who delivers that one in his neighborhood? Nobody.
Right, so somehow he's on the boat. Doc and Gopher, not the people that should be handling this crisis at all.
No.
It would be like you two handling it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it would be you two. Like, hey, kid, what's up?
Yeah. So the kid's not giving up any information.
No.
He's from Stockton. That's all they give him. And they figured
a
out
rough
that
area,
his
too.
name is Dennison. And like this goes back to the technology questions we always have.
Yeah.
They can't call the parents.
Yeah, because the phone
doesn't work until they're out of port. So
makes no sense. We've talked about
phone
this.
Doesn't work when you're on land, but then automatically works when you're in the water at sea.
Is there a guy with a wire? Like, how else would it work? Because you didn't have that technology. That's what I thought. I figured
maybe
communication.
Like truck drivers, like what were they
That's
called?
What I'm like a CB.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Phone calls when you were on the boat when you were 17.
Yeah, did you make any long distance phone calls
to Stockton, California?
Yeah, to stop. Did you call home?
No, I was with my parents.
Oh
no, I don't even remember phones being on the boat.
Because I would assume
first, not Captain Steubing making a phone call reference to a phone.
I could see like internal, like
an
room service, like a hotel, because it's a floating hotel.
So maybe it was something with the CB, and maybe there was so much interference. I don't know.
It's weird, like because you don't see a lot of technology on this boat.
Do you think it's all like fish phones? Like they need the fish to make calls, they just vibrate it through the sea.
Or they have the cups in the string or something. I don't know.
They just have a guy with phone wire off the back.
Up to their ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that whole message in a bottle thing is. They just send hundreds of them a day.
So they're SOL because the boat started. So let's take Mr. Dennison to his room. And then they do this weird like Fat Albert cartoon strut to the elevator, which I don't know what that was about. That was a
okay. I feel like we need to back up a minute though.
Okay.
So the kid gets onto the boat, right? And he just hands them a note. Let's talk about how they just hand them a note having parents' permission.
Right. I don't think they accepted that though, right?
Well, they're reading it and they're like, "Oh, it must be good." And
they let him on the boat.
But
they didn't
anybody can get on the boat, but I don't know that they would have let him on the boat. They just he timed it out perfectly. He didn't show up to the last second.
Right, but that was like a legit thing though. Like in the 70s and like growing up at that time, I would have to go grocery shopping, for my mom and write checks. And she would just have a note saying it was okay. Think about did you ever have to go to the corner store for your grandma and get cigarettes or anything? Yeah. Scratchies. And back then it was kind of like if you had a note, it was like, okay, cool. You have a note. You can do whatever you want.
And it could be the same note saying it's okay for Michael to pick up these for me. And you go, same thing. And then they know you and it's no big deal.
Also to take this cruise to Mazelton.
They were,
I'm saying same thing. Give me a pack of Luckies. Take this trip to Puerto Vallarta.
Same thing. I'm just saying, I think the note held a lot of power. I'm sorry. I just had to bring that up because I was like, wow.
Definitely.
It's as decisive a document as anything we've seen in the check-in process.
I mean, it's his passport essentially. Here we go. My mom stamped it.
That's the other thing too. Does this kid have what are the law? Is it international waters and so it doesn't matter? Does this kid have a passport that he can go to these other countries? Or does it not matter?
I don't think you needed it back then. Back then, I didn't have a passport. All we had to have was our birth certificate. And I think because of my age, a birth certificate and a photo ID. So this is 1991 or so, 92. And that's all I needed. I did not have a passport until I was in college.
Okay.
It was different.
So think about the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a different way of life. Trust. There was a lot of trust, I think.
We're piecing things together. We're gonna have this solved by the end of the whole thing.
Okay.
Not today.
All right.
Durwood and Maisie are married, and they're taking separate vacations on the advice of the marriage counselor. I wonder if it was the same marriage counselor from before that we've seen on the show.
That ruined another marriage.
Right. basically their problem is Maisie says that Durwood doesn't say he loves her enough. And then he does some Steve Allen jokes. And then they decide that they're basically going to try and find other dates.
Just so
right?
annoying.
That's the hook, I guess.
How old are they supposed to be in this? How old are they?
50s?
I was hoping they would be older than that, but probably, right?
I'm seeing it from a different perspective, being a female. I'm seeing that he was complacent and she was like, you don't give me attention. And he's like, whatever.
Yeah, but he went
That's how I'm seeing it.
Mm.
But I'm just saying, but they have separate rooms. So all she wants is a little attention. She's like, give me a little attention. And he's like, no. I'm going to go hang out with. I don't know. That's how I saw that scene. But go ahead.
See, this is why we needed to have a female on. This is the perspective that we weren't going to be able to offer.
Yeah, because I'm oblivious to it, but I see your point. I see your point, though.
Yeah.
Like,
if we've established nothing on this show, it's your obliviousness to female issues on the show.
Because my assumption going in is like, what's her problem? Like, just flat out, what's her problem?
Not him at all, just her.
No, it never occurred to me until you said that. But now I get it. Now I agree with you now.
So we now head to dinner, and Mike, I know you're a fan of all the dinner scenes. This is a lot of short dinner scene. This is a chunk.
Yeah.
All three storylines are at dinner. Gopher and Doc took the kid to dinner. Mm-hmm. He's eating a bunch of hot dogs. Good for him. That's what I would do if I was on a boat, all expensive paid. Now, forget being a kid. I would eat a bunch of hot dogs now. Yeah. That makes sense.
How many hot dogs can I have? Like, as many as you like.
Maisie and Durwood get seated together, of course. You know, Maisie starts hitting on this tax insurance salesman guy who's a real bore. And here comes Lonnie Anderson, who's named Barbie, which is hilarious. And so the four of them are sitting together. A lot of awkward flirting, and she says that she's really interested in insurance, and you know, it's just basically, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just a lot of the same stuff.
Well, they were just killing the point. Like, okay, we get it.
Well, they're just trying to make each other jealous, and it's like, okay,
like, all right.
The side, they kept looking back at each other to see what the other one was doing, and you know.
They put a lot of eggs in the Steve Allen zinger basket, and I think that held up for a little bit, but they kind of ran out of...
Well, they didn't make it very believable either. Like, come on. Right? If because it was clear...
Lonnie Anderson would be hitting on Steve Allen?
No, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not.
No, I was going to say, I even felt like his wife was like...
It was like... It just didn't... It just didn't make any sense. It was too much. Like, you're just going to... I don't know. It was too much for me in a comb over, but it's too much.
Elsewhere in the restaurant, the bakers are seemingly having a good time. Jim Stafford, as I have noted, can wear the shit out of a tuxedo. He looks really good in this tuxedo. But Sandy Duncan hears Theo's laughter miles away. Like we've discovered this is a very weird eating hall. And she hears him like he is right in her ear.
Like they're eating in like an airplane hangar. Right. It's amazing.
Right. Sound travels. The ceiling must be enormous. So she runs away. And then there's like a lot of like zoom ins, like really like they were shooting like a horror movie. They zoom in on the kid. They zoom in on Sandy Duncan.
It was.
They zoomed in on the Maisie when Barbie showed up. There's just like a lot of zooming.
It was a little weird. It got uncomfortable. It's about to get uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable. What you're about to say next. So,
Stewie shows up to see how they're handling the kid on the boat, and they just have no plan. They're like, we tried this and that, and so no one really has a solid plan, including like who's going to actually watch the kid at night. Like, I was not allowed to watch myself at 8, I don't think. Certainly not in a strange room with no supervision for like the entire night. And if I did, it was probably a mistake. So that doesn't seem like a plan.
And what was he doing when he wasn't slick? Did he just have the run of the whole place?
Well, I mean, at least they gave him a nightmare later, but it's like we always talk about. You could just wander the boat.
Right. Like nobody's
had him like get really drunk one night.
Well, they didn't kick him off the boat. He had it. The ticket was paid for, number one, which I don't know if that's what threw him or what, but like, well,
but they had the note.
They had the note too.
They had the note.
A couple episodes ago, they put the stowaway in the medical office, but you don't put a kid with somebody.
Well, because Doc doesn't want anybody to cock block. He wants to keep his office open just in case.
Put him with Gopher. That's
what I would think. It'd be comedy, the two of them, and this is what I. But it was weird because there was no. It was like an incomplete picture. It's like just what.
Yes, that's what. Well, that was the thing. It kind of cut, right? So it went from them hanging out, and then he had a nightmare. So it didn't really account for that time in between or dinner. Like it just kind of all
and then all movie or
How you gonna knock on some stranger's door on a cruise?
And be like, "Hey, here's a kid.
Can I come in?" No.
I'm surprised he's knocking on anybody's door, according to what they made it sound like. So.
That's Stockton's a rough place, but it just didn't make any. I've had it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's just the whole thing is just way.
Yeah, it gets worse. Like the storyline doesn't make any sense now, and it gets so much worse.
Bothersome.
Yes.
Connie shows up in this sex bomb dress, and the crew just turns into like the Three Stooges. Like Gopher goes face first into the dip. Like everybody is just acting like they've never seen a woman before. Ever. It's kind of ridiculous. And then Stubing kiboshes the outfit. I think he said that I've seen survivors at sea with more clothing and sends her on her way. But
she's wearing red sequins.
She was wearing red sequins. Yeah.
But Connie makes sure to pin that one on Julie too.
Yeah.
So that's two things. Just she's a craftsman. She's got a plan and she's making it work. And so far, it's working well.
Mm-hmm.
But who's hiding behind to hear all this stuff is Isaac. So Isaac gives one of those
good old Isaac
looks, and then they go to commercial. So Isaac was at least the first one to kind of realize that she was up to something.
Made me feel better.
Yeah, that was a good solid move by Isaac.
Because you know what? I was like, I know he's going to say something to her because he's a good friend.
He's a straight shooter.
Yeah.
Plus, we know Isaac's not going to do anything based on the first time we saw him try and hit on somebody. So he's going to. All right. Act 2 begins with the swingers. They're still swinging, but it's not really going anywhere. It's kind of what we said. Barbie says that Durwood reminds her of her dad, which, ouch. Like that's not going well for Steve Allen.
But he wasn't even paying any attention to her at all. Like he just it's not.
Again, that's what his wife was complaining about.
Oh, right? So maybe he's just he's incapable of feeling.
Oh, see, I thought he was distracted by his wife doing what she was doing, thereby ignoring what's her face. But he was still doing the same thing.
Same thing, right? Yeah.
He should be like, look, you're 60 and I ignore you. Look, she's like 20 something. I ignore her too. Don't feel bad about it. It's not personal. I ignore everybody.
Do you think that he would have paid more attention to Bailey Quarters?
No.
Okay. I was more Bailey than Jennifer, so.
Yeah, I was too, but no, he was just oblivious.
Sorry.
Okay.
You're good.
So now we get to the weird stuff.
All right.
Everything else.
Oh, wait. Let's go back to that. Because that was weird too. The whole swinger type, that whole thing was weird.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, a little distraction. But that's fine. We can continue. But that whole.
Yeah. But I don't even think that. I don't even think
it's very weird, and it's not even close to the weirdest story in this show.
But I don't even think that's the advice they got. That was their interpretation of advice. The advice was to go on separate vacations. not to go on a cruise together and sleep in different rooms. It was
I
like,
guess it's possible.
and it wasn't
right next to each other.
Right, but it wasn't go hook up with someone. It's like, hey, maybe you guys need a little time apart. Why don't you go here? Why don't you go here and regroup? And
But is it
instead, they're
possible
like,
that she booked the cruise and then he later booked it out of jealousy?
sounds
And
like
so
a guy
it wasn't
thing
a
to
plan to go on this cruise together.
Maybe.
do.
But I want to go to like the insurance guy because he was just like, I sell insurance, and then all of a sudden, like he wants to hook up with her. Like there was this like gap of like what happened because it didn't seem like he was interested in her.
I mean, she was throwing herself at him
multiple nights.
Yeah,
that's just an easy.
Yeah, men are kind of.
That's just an easy.
Yeah, but so was Barbie.
Right
so here we go. We have the same story. Barbie's throwing her. Well, no, she said it sounds like her dad. Like reminds her of her dad.
But still threw herself at her. Like,
but it's different. I think it's a weird, different vibe when you see a guy doing that, and then you see a girl doing it. Like the girl doing it seems a little more innocent, just because that guy one seems extra creepy. You know what I mean? Because he was like handsy and stuff like that.
In this thing, oh, see, I think girls are like they know what they're doing. Hence the storyline of. Like girls know exactly what they're doing. Not to say that men don't, but when it
right.
Go ahead.
To be fair, spoiler, at the end, those two end up together. So they went on that boat looking to hook up and they hooked up. Good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
And he poured in a storm.
I mean, maybe if it wasn't for Miss Nolan and Mr. Moss, maybe that wouldn't have happened. So
the point is, I think anybody who ended up at that table with those two was going to end up with those two.
Fair enough.
It's like a fly trap. All right. Now we get to the weird.
Here we go.
Everything else in this Sandy Duncan, Theo Denizen storyline is weird, maybe inappropriate, definitely uncomfortable at every turn. There's not one scene that made me feel better about myself after watching it. They start the scene with no music and a picture of a child in a frame. That is her dead child that she packed into her suitcase.
It was a big picture too.
For a cruise. It's a very big
picture. I mean, I'm sorry for your loss, but that's a big ass picture. It really is. It's not a travel size anything.
No, put that baby in your wallet.
Where's your wallet? Yeah, ma'am. You could even fit a bigger one because you probably have a lady wallet, but that's unnecessary. It was the size of Captain American's shield. Yeah, it's like men's wallets are this, and ladies' wallets are like.
And we later find out that they haven't unpacked yet because when she's throwing Jim Stafford out of the room, she says I have to unpack, which means that's like at the top of the luggage, or she's got it in her handbag.
Well, I honestly thought the thing that got me the most is that. So they've had this sad talk, and she's like, I'll unpack, right? And he's going to leave, and he's like, I love you. And she said, please don't stop, or something like that. And like got all, and I was like, run.
Yeah.
Run and jump off the ships there. She's crazy.
It got deep. It definitely, that whole storyline got deep.
And that guy's a terrible actor, babe.
Yeah, he's not the actor to pull off the gravitas needed for the other side of this.
I bet you there was a take where he was humming spiders and snakes, trying to get some sales. That's crazy.
So they give the exposition that the kid basically was told he was only going to live till he was 2 at birth, made it to 8. That's great. They don't give any context on how long he's been gone. Jim Stafford kind of does a little bit of the get over it speech, which is weird. Like, I'm not saying Sandy Duncan's acting rationally. Maybe she shouldn't. I would hate to be in that situation, but you guys probably had a conversation about going on this cruise. At some point, it should have been like, hey, I'm not ready to go on this cruise. Or, hey, are you going to be crying about the baby all the time on the cruise? And they seem to have skipped that part. So,
well, plus, I mean, we don't know what the camera didn't see, because on the cab ride there, he's probably like, look, I hope you're not going to be a real bitch this time, okay? All right, because if you are, we can just stay home.
That's the thing. We don't know. The kid could have passed away 2 weeks ago.
We don't know.
10 years ago. So I just feel like, as somebody who's gotten in trouble for saying much less worse things to women that were stupid, I probably would never tell my wife to get over their dead child. That just seems like.
Yeah. Well, I have more to add
Yes, please.
I have more to add to this as you go into the story.
Okay.
So I want to talk about that, but I'll wait until you dive more into the storyline.
Okay. So yeah, Mike, to your point, she's frantic. She's crying, and then she's got to unpack, and then she's smooching, and she's saying, "Don't give up on me." Basically, it's a lot. It's a lot for Jim Stafford to handle.
Jump off of the boat, Jim.
And I don't think he had a chance to get a drink yet either. So it's just like
he didn't even change out of his tux yet. Where are you going in your tux, Jim?
It's a lot.
Not in the same room. I gotta go.
Yeah. I gotta be anywhere. Fiesta deck? Sure.
I got a phone call to make. Now we're at sea, so I'll be right back. Just weird.
He probably paid Theo Denison's family to ditch that kid just so they could get a break.
That's who bought the ticket. The whole thing's a big setup. That's what it is, trying to make her get over
it. There you go. Yeah.
Got that spiders and snakes money coming in.
So Steubing and Gopher are going to go up to Theo's room. They run into him on the elevator. They're really getting their money's worth out of that elevator set. That's every week now.
Elevator.
That elevator. And they tell him that they got a hold of the parents and that they're going to show up in Puerto Vallarta for him. And then Theo does his Emmy speech about finding a home and, all that stuff. And then the elevator closes. So again, they don't follow the kid up to the fourth floor. He's just running up and down with his headphones on. Also, I didn't know they had headphones in 1977.
I was going to say, because it was almost like a Walkman situation. But those things didn't come out. I mean, maybe they had radios with like because even like the earpiece.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe it was just a radio.
Okay, but can you get?
That's what I'm wondering. What are you going to get? What are you going to get at Puerto Vallarta? What are you going to get in the like Radio Free America? What are you going to get?
Yeah,
who knows?
You're going to get some
or maybe there's like
a podcast.
Do they have? Did they have? Do you remember if they had?
Listening to this podcast
just over and over. What about on the cruise you went on? Was there music on like a PA system or something like that? Was there something like that going on, like at the pool? I'm just wondering if they had something there he could listen to.
No, they had entertainment. They had like shows you would go to, but I don't remember music being a part of anything,
Like I didn't know if they had like a little radio station or something,
No, they just had like so they would do like all day long, so you can sign up. They would have dance classes, or you could have dinner and a show. So it was like music in the sense of like entertainment, but not like
nothing like
playing. Yeah,
I'd like to look that up.
That I can recall. So
interesting. Okay.
Well, now we have to add Walkman technology.
Walkman technology in 1977 to the list. Yep.
Isaac fills Julie in on Connie's plan. We don't stay there very long. Julie kind of is like, Jack tries to sell Maisie life insurance, but she pretends that it's basically him trying to come onto her to trick Steve Allen to make him jealous. Jack is confused. These guys aren't swingers. Like this is whoever the worst swingers are you've ever seen. These guys are worse. Like I don't know what the. Like
I was expecting like keys in a bag.
Yeah.
Something. There's just nothing, pineapples on the door, nothing like that. There's nothing. It's just
like it almost would have been better if they had run into an older couple.
How much older?
Actual swingers, like if they had accidentally met.
Oh, because the comedy would have been like how uncomfortable they would have been.
Right.
With how not uncomfortable they would have been.
Right.
Which probably would have been funnier, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because that was just awkward. Barbie being so young and him being so old. And I was like, ew. This is so gross.
Yeah. Like, what do you
I guess I'm glad they didn't really do well, at least in that
one.
Well, how many people are on the ship where she ends up sitting next to him?
Yeah.
Like, what?
You get assignments at dinner. Tom, did you get assigned seats at dinner?
Yes, but our table was like large. So it was round circle table, and there were probably like I would say maybe like 4 families sat at the same table every single night.
Oh, so it was the
So you would
same
have
assignment every night.
it's the same assignment, and you got to know the people, you have conversations with them, you
Oh,
know, but it was the same people and you had the same times every single night.
Did
that's like
you
a
ever
bad
see
fancy
the?
draft, though. If you get
It's
the
like
wrong
it's like
table, you're screwed.
cafeteria at school, like different lunch schedule. Was the captain ever there in the dining room?
He would, yes, because this was a
Short
really
jacket?
nice cruise.
Yeah.
So I would have to say that so my first take of like rewatching The Love Boat was, wow, that ship is really small. Like it looks like a yacht. Like and so like comparatively to like 2023 or even the boat that I was on, it definitely was a lot smaller. You know, so this boat, the dining room was enormous. And you know, the captain would come around to the tables and say hi. You could like have dinner with the captain. So there was a captain's table because
Yes.
there wasn't
Okay.
just the captain. There was a you know what I mean? Like another guy, co-captain. I don't know what they call him,
Vice
but
captain.
vice captain. So yeah, but you had to dress up and it was you had to be presentable. It was like a very, you know,
Like jacket?
proper. Yes, yes. It was a very proper dinner
I mean, we haven't
every
seen
night.
anybody slumming it at these dinners, to be
No.
fair.
No,
No.
no. I think that it was like somewhat prestigious in a certain, depending on like your cruise line and, you know,
It's a little
so
fancy.
it wasn't, yeah,
Was it
yeah,
just dinner that was fancy, or was it all the meal? Like you could roll in
yes.
there normal with other meals.
Get a
Well, they
bagel and
had,
shorts.
you could have room service that was included, and they would have like BLT or turkey sandwiches, very light. Then they would have lunch, which was more buffet style, but then dinner was definitely like the event, you know. And
Nice.
then there was like entertainment afterwards, cocktails, the casino. It was
Nice.
a good time.
So here's what we were talking about earlier. So Theo is having nightmares because he was left in his room alone at 8 years old in a strange boat. So he knocks on
What's
the next.
scary?
Well, they said nightmares, right?
Well, no, I'm wondering what's scarier, nightmares or knocking on some stranger's room at like 3:00 in the morning that you don't know?
Do you think that he scouted out that they were a young couple, or do you think he was going to knock on that door no matter who it was?
No, you bring up a good point, because in that elevator scene, remember he was saying I'll just have to find some new parents. Remember he had said that
Mm-hmm.
prior to that nightmare scene. So no,
So
I
he
think
got the
he
list.
probably
He got the list.
he
He the same last name.
Or
saw a couple of rubes.
was his room next to theirs?
It was.
I think it was too.
So
Yeah,
do you think he starts with
So
them
maybe
and
that
works out?
piece of cake.
maybe that's what it was, where it was just like convenience, you know, of like, oh, there's you know, mom and dad, essentially. I'm just gonna go to them.
It
They
wasn't
seem nice.
That makes me
Yeah.
feel a little better about him then. Maybe.
And then they're very nice.
Yeah.
They let him in.
Ugh.
They offer to get him some hot chocolate. And then he asks if he can get in bed with Sandy Duncan. And
No, I did not find any of that uncomfortable.
so this emotionally devastated woman
She
is
just
in bed
her face
with
is
a
still
runaway
wet from her
child,
tears.
and no one is stopping it.
That
Like,
husband's like,
No one.
this is gonna, you know, it's like that thing. His philosophy is, if I catch a child smoking, they have to smoke a carton of cigarettes. This is the equivalent of that. You know, oh, you miss our son? I've arranged for a boy to come in and ask if he can sleep in your bed tonight. What?
So
you did not think that was weird that a strange child crawled into Sandy Duncan's bed less than 3 hours after this child's laughter brought her to emotional devastation.
And the husband
No.
husband was never like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. He was just
why don't
standing
you
there
sit
like
there?
a dummy.
You can sleep on the futon.
I think what I was most uncomfortable with in that entire scene, if you noticed, is the boy is talking to the essential dad, bad hair dad, right? Not once does Sandy Duncan get to have a say in anything, in any of the dialogue.
Right.
It is just a conversation between the boy and the guy. And so I was more uncomfortable that she just sat there like, okay. And this is what I wanted to talk about when you were, earlier, was like, back in the 70s, I don't think women had a lot, not to bring it down or anything, but didn't really have like a lot of power or say in things. They just kind of did. Like if a husband was like, stop doing this, they were kind of like, okay, I don't really have a choice. Like,
so in real life, I think you're 100% right. But oddly enough, on this show, we have found it to be incredibly female forward. It is a strong female character driven show, believe it or not. I hadn't
really
seriously like really like to the point where we've marked it a few times. Do you think she was being quiet because it didn't feel like he was running her over? I know what you're saying, but do you think she was being quiet because she was like taking it all in, like, oh my god, I can steal this child? Like, so
no, I think that she was just sitting there like, whatever he says, that's what goes, like the whole time she just sat there and didn't say a word.
That makes it worse too, that she's just taking it. Like, I don't want this child to sleep next. How old are you? 8?
Well, no, but then she's like, and then she's like, yes, of course. She has that law. She wants, the child, being a female. And, I come across this situation of kids being somewhat like just being in education, like of being lost, that I don't find it weird because they're kids. They don't know any better. Like, how old is he? 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if
it was a smart to go on a boat doesn't mean he's emotionally developed?
What?
Like
no.
Like, it's a 2-part like transaction, right? The first thing is like, hey, I'm lost, right? Okay, I get that. And then the second one was, hey, can I hop in bed? Like, what? What are you talking about, dude?
So you think if
I call
you
security
had stopped the scene before Theo asked to get into bed, Sandy Duncan would have been like, "Get this kid out of my room"?
No, I think the guy.
No, I think she would have been. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just saying if I'm him and that kid's room, and I'd be like, man, you better get out of here. Like, I don't know you. I'm sorry.
Because I think he was like, I think he was more like, this is gonna shut my wife the F up. So go ahead.
I got you a puppy. I'm going to the bar.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like, I'm out. You got what you wanted. I get what I wanted. See
was
ya.
he still in his tuxedo at that point?
He was. He was.
Yeah.
Doesn't he leave at one point?
He's always leaving in that tuxedo. He's got things to do.
And that hair.
Yeah,
he's brushing his hair somewhere.
He's just making sure it's never moving.
Oh, now I'm fascinated because you're right. It does make sense from Jim Stafford's point that it's like, okay, I tried to do the cruise thing. I thought it was going to be okay. I'm pulling the cord right now. This is going to be a long cruise. Let me get her something to do. Perfect.
Yeah.
Opportunity knocks. It's Theo Dennison with a nightmare and no parents. And
he's a really nice kid.
Yes.
It's not like he's like,
Smoking.
like you're talking about this kid or something. He's like a sweet little innocent kid. He is dressed to the nines. Like he's got
he knows how to make money.
There is no way I would
well
behaved as well as he did.
Yeah.
At 8.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. No. He's polite. He's like, I don't know. Well,
there's a reason they tried to steal him from his parents. He's a good kid.
Well, did they steal him or they just
tried?
And that's a whole other thing too. Is
Oh, listen. I know how it ends. They would have taken that kid, or Sandy Duncan would have taken that kid.
No. No paper. Were there? They would have gotten off the boat in Mexico.
There's nothing in
with
the laundry bag. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You better catch me. Shoot.
So we move on. Gopher and Doc are still kind of rolling over for Connie, but Isaac is busy dropping truth bombs and tells Julie that, she's the fool for letting all this happen. Julie, for I think the second week in a row, after I just said this has been a real female positive, strong female lead. She came off pretty weak last week with Barry Keys, and now she's coming off kind of weak in this thing too, kind of the whole way. I'm not saying that she should have known ahead of time that she was going to get sandbagged, but she really never fought back.
That's right. But I think but this is the thing about female forward, like cattiness was a big thing, you know, like girls still are catty. I mean, it's changed a little bit, but you know.
But that's my point.
I don't think you
not
fight
being
back.
catty
Like,
about it.
Yeah, I feel like
I know,
Julie...
but the other one, yeah.
Oh yeah.
She was the bigger woman. I think that's female forward, being the bigger woman, being like,
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
There you go.
I agree. I think it reinforces something we've talked about for almost every episode, that Julie, number one, this show is all about Julie. Like Julie is the star of the show.
The star of the show. Yep.
And it not only, it wasn't just Julie's actions, you know, in her character this episode, it was also the captain being so creepy again. Like they just undercut that character so much. Like he sent her roses and he's talking about it's inappropriate for you to be wearing this. And like, you sent, or maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Definitely
like maybe,
mixed messaging. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just weird. Like, I don't like that they're not consistent with like his integrity level.
Yeah. I think he has a chemical imbalance. That's my new theory.
It's just, and the hat inside, it's a whole thing. Short coats. I don't know. I just think that, yeah, Julie's the star of the show. Julie's the...
she was very professional.
Yes.
With all that going down, she was just like... Okay,
I wouldn't have been that professional if somebody was overtly trying to steal my job like that.
No.
Just throw her off the boat, you know?
Right.
Bye. You know?
All right. So we end up on the deck, and this is where Isaac comes to shine. So here is a list of all the drinks that Isaac served in this episode.
Love it. Great.
2 tequila sunrises, a Tom Collins, gin and tonic, and a zombie. Now, Tanya, as a former bartender, do you have any idea what's in a zombie?
I want to say at one point, but no. I think for some reason I want to say that like Kahlua or something was in it, but I don't.
It's actually got a little bit of a hangover cure in here. It's a lot of stuff.
Ooh, tell me.
1 ounce lime juice, 2/3 ounce pineapple juice, 2/3 ounce papaya juice, 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, 1/2 ounce of apple brandy, 1 ounce of black rum, 2 ounces of gold rum, 1 ounce of white rum, and 1/2 ounce of 151.
Oh, it sounds like a Harrison. Just kidding.
Right. You know what? You don't get to order that on the boat. That's like 19 bottles I have to get out to make that drink. There are no zombies on this boat.
I always thought
you can have scotch.
Or a whiskey sour. I always thought that you could do I always thought that there were cranberries in a zombie.
This was the zombie that I found online. Maybe there's multiple zombies. That just seems like an excessive amount of stuff to put in a drink. And you're not going to pre-make it. Yeah.
No, I would say cranberries because they released a song called Zombie.
Blew your joke.
Now I get your joke.
I was just gonna walk away slowly, and I went, you know what? No, I'm coming back. I'm gonna explain the joke because those are always.
No, you're right. That's on us. That was a good joke.
No.
That was a good one.
The best jokes need to be explained. You know what I mean? And revisited. So it's...
No, those are the best ones. When you asked for it, you want to do it again?
Yeah. No. I had thought about it. Yeah, I was
we can put it in a reel.
I'm good.
I can just put zombie right underneath it.
Oh my gosh.
Follow us on Instagram. So Steve Allen hits the deck, and this is the best part of this whole storyline is they come in just zinger. So Steve Allen says, I didn't know they made orthopedic bathing suits, which is great.
Funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'd love to stand here and watch you dry out. And then she makes some crack about how it's a siesta and a fiesta, which means one drink and you pass out. Like they're just
funny too.
They are the Lockhorns this week, and they are doing great work. And it really that's it. That's kind of it.
Yeah,
That was
that was
the
it.
end of it being really interesting to me. What was that? That and Steve Allen's clothes. He had some shirts.
Yeah, he had some shirts, some glasses.
Yeah.
Too.
Some outfits. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Tom, was Cruz wear in the early 90s, I'm sure it was very, tasteful and demure. Was it always that gaudy even when you went?
No. It was more like you right now. Very
Tuxedo
handsome
constantly?
and
Yeah.
no, it was like suit. I remember I had like this velvet shirt that I loved. It was like long. I'm going to Bermuda and I'm wearing velvet. I don't know what I was
That's
thinking.
commitment right there.
I was like, but I loved it. It was
So
red crushed, and I was
you were
like, it was like
17.
off
You were out
the
in the town.
yeah, and our server liked me, and we ended up making out under a bush.
He liked that velvet.
On some island in Bermuda.
Oh,
So
man.
there you go.
All these poor people in Bermuda walking by this bush that's making all these cranky noises.
But I gotta tell you, so let's go back to the whole thing of like the no interest. Like my parents were there. I was at a club in Bermuda with my sister. My sister allowed me to just wander off with this guy, and it was no big deal. It was just kind of like, okay, just make sure you're on the boat. And there was like all these like drums playing in the background, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I gotta go.
No, I didn't want to make a big deal about it, but we found that waiter, and he is joining us now.
Joining us live.
Yes.
That would have been
I
great.
don't know what happened, man. I got swept up in the moment.
No,
he was Spanish. He was like
no.
He did not have a Jamaican accent. I was in Bermuda.
What if I nailed it there? That'd be great.
She didn't go to Cool Runnings.
Yeah. Good try though. Good guess.
Good Lord.
Wow. My face hurts on that one.
All right. So the Bakers say good morning to Theo, and he immediately asks them to adopt him. It's like there's got to be a little bit.
Time.
No.
It moves fast on the Love Boat. There is no time or anything. They got 3 days.
Yeah, he knows his parents are coming, and then
he knows that there's time. Yeah, time is finite.
Wait, but the parents don't. She keeps him from the parents though at the first stop.
The parents
they couldn't get
there. They don't make it very clear, but the parents missed the connection or something to get to Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, I thought that Sandy Duncan was like, "You're not go." I thought it was made to sound like she kept him from going to see
that
his
would have been
parents.
interesting.
Oh, I wish
that would have been great. No, they just missed the boat.
That's what happened. Oh, I gotta rewatch that.
Yeah,
because I was like, "Oh, that sneaky little thing." But
so in the course of the adoption conversation, Sandy Duncan explains the concept of death to an 8-year-old that she does not know. And this seems, again, incredibly inappropriate.
It's too much.
And they all are just trying to set up, so they can say, well, we both kind of need somebody in a way or something, whatever they hit the button on. But I don't know. It's just, these are conversations you should not be having with any child that's 8, let alone not your child.
Paint the boat black and call it the death boat this week. Come on, guys. Can we bounce back? Seriously. Can we put a fresh coat of white paint on this boat and try to be positive? Good Lord.
Yeah.
Why did she even I get it goes back to that whole thing is we don't know when this happened.
Right.
It obviously she's still dealing with it. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Then she's on this thing. It's like
probably 5 storylines that we've seen so far. Is these people shouldn't have taken this cruise.
No.
They're not ready for this cruise, ultimately.
But if it's
so I had I had another take on it too, is the fact that he's a little black boy and they're white. And so I thought race came into this a lot of the mom, Sandy Duncan automatically assumed oh, well, no one probably wants this kid. I'm going to take this kid.
Yeah.
Assuming that he had, just because his parents were getting divorced, that he had such a bad, we know that wasn't the case and stuff. But I was I almost felt like it was more edgy in that sense.
Yeah. Oh
you know?
no. And like I would say, like normally I would think, oh, that's probably too deep for a love, but this is a very deep. This isn't a love boat. This isn't a love boat storyline. This is some TV movie storyline. But like, you're right. I think that's absolutely. They don't ever like smash it, but there's definitely like the undertone of that too. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was important that when his parents did, you saw them on screen, right? They were dressed nicely. You know what I mean? They weren't like.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something out of Annie where they like didn't want the kid. It wasn't like Rooster showing up like you know,
they presented in like
so
in a nice way, and they were like, you know what I mean. So it's like it was this.
No,
so
like
all in all, maybe she was thinking that too.
On it. It just felt incredibly out of place for this.
Yeah, totally. It was unnecessary. They didn't even need to like. Let's keep it light. Jeez, man.
The Richard at one point explains the entire plot to Sharon about how they missed the flight and the kid's really not on his own and all this stuff, but she just ignores it. And I have a note that denial isn't just a river that the princess sails on. So that's what Sandy Duncan is doing. She's just deny.
Yeah.
Which isn't healthy.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, doesn't this sort of just make it worse for her? Like, you know, they like to wrap up the end of the show with like, okay, well, all's well that ends well, but didn't this just make it worse?
Well, if you go by the actual
she was happy.
Right. If you go by the actual ending of what happened, no. If you go by reality, this is having another child torn away from you. And now you're comparing your potential adopted kid to two children. Which is
the other weird thing too is I noticed about when that couple left the boat, he kissed Julie on the lips.
Oh, we'll get to the end of that.
All right, sorry.
Dialogue is
like what the.
They do a lot of work in that.
Well, maybe it was easier, you know, storyline. Like, and I think that I've mentioned this before to you, Mike. Is like at that time, I think they were just trying to put TV was just trying to put concepts out, like things that were happening in popular culture, and they were like, divorce. This is something that's starting to happen, so let's just touch on it. You know, maybe death of a child. You know, like. It even going back to the swinger couple, you know, maybe divorce or swingers, you know, like the cattiness. There are all these like subjects that would have been a part of like the culture at the time, you know.
100%. And everything else that you say fits totally into what we've seen. Death and child death just was like a jump. Like last week or a couple weeks ago, we had an episode about pranks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and now we have a dead child and kidnapping, you know. It's a lot. But good for them. Like I said, not necessarily a bad storyline, just not.
No,
just,
like, it was a little heavier. It's a little heavier for a cruise show.
Yeah, especially when I could have been watching Sinatra take out the mob.
Right.
Yes. And I think that when she was giving him back to the parents, it was maybe like their storyline was like, all right, now I get to say goodbye to my kid almost. And she was like happy, where it was kind of like this, like getting to say goodbye and giving him back, because she was happy. She was happy-go-lucky after that. She was like
sort of closure thing.
Yeah. Like, let's go party. Get that hair ready. Get that tux on. We're going out.
Can't do much with that hair, though. Am I right? Like, what are you going to do? Like, I can put a hat on, or I can put a hat on.
I don't know.
So on the much lighter storyline, Julie has this idea for the captain's cocktail night, which is, again, another new thing. Wild West night. And she has all these examples of what that would mean. And then Connie comes down and has the exact same idea. She told Steubing about it. She's got Steubing wrapped around her finger. And now everybody's kind of like, okay, Isaac was right. This lady's up to something. Everybody's on board except for definitely Steubing, because he's in love. Or lust. This is a lust vote. And Julie is still being weird. But Tom, do you know what red eye is? They kept saying red eye. Is that like a Bloody Mary?
Oh, red eye is beer and tomato juice.
Ah. So is that like a Western themed drink, or is that just
I don't know. It's just something that people would order. It's half beer and then half, like, you know, V8 tomato juice, whatever. Yeah.
I had a buddy in high school, just after high school, that loved those. And we used to drive around his Honda Prelude And he would like,
Nice.
he would crack open a beer. He would drink a little. And he'd be like, "Hey, Mike, can you pour some V8 in this beer for me while we're driving around?" So there were many nights where my jeans were soaked with V8 and, natural
Did you
light.
supply the V8, or did you just have like it at the ready, like in the glove compartment?
It was between my
knew this
feet on
about
the
you.
on the floorboard.
Oh,
Like,
so
'cause
it
I
was
don't-
warm?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
I don't
was
mess
warm?
with it. Well, the beer was
so it was
cold.
like
The beer was cold, but yeah,
But the
I didn't
juice
drink
was
it.
warm.
Yeah, I didn't give a
Oh,
shit. It wasn't for
God.
me. I don't care. So
That's like
yeah,
when we were
Yeah.
we had a shore house one year, and when people would come, we told them to bring a case of beer. That would be their rent, basically. And people brought just absolute trash beer. And we had a thing of amaretto. And so what you do with the trash beer is you would take a swig out of the can, and then you would dump amaretto into it to make it taste better.
Nice. A Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
That's what
I
that
remember
is.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dry
Wait, were
dry
you
town,
invited
my
to this
ass,
beach
Ocean
house?
City, New Jersey.
I wasn't invited to that beach house. Were you invited to that beach house?
No.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
you.
wasn't either.
It was like 2001.
Still could have thrown out an invite, bro. Just
I
saying.
know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been really odd. I didn't know either of you, and you were in the military.
Just fine.
All right. Theo locks himself in the bathroom because he thinks that his parents are going to show up at Puerto Vallarta. Turns out his parents did not show up at Puerto Vallarta, which again gives Sandy Duncan kind of false hope that these parents don't exist and she can steal this child.
Mm-hmm.
Then we smash cut to Stubing's office. There's a lot going on in Stubing's office.
That TV makes no sense. Yeah.
Yes. I sent you a screenshot of his office.
You did. So
yes.
So I was going to jot everything down and I didn't, but I know there's a giant TV, which we have discussed.
Yeah.
It's odd because it's behind him.
Mm.
Like I have a TV in my office, but it's in front of my desk. So I can see it when I'm working.
Yeah.
So
But he's dealing with people, so they're watching behind him, right?
They're watching
sitting
over
in front of him. Maybe it's a cruise thing, like buy into. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
He's also got a giant bell.
Mm-hmm.
He's got what I assume are his degrees, his boating degrees on the wall.
Yeah.
And his hat. It's a sparse office. Like there should be more in
threw
there.
That together, the prop department. They're
there should be like a Billy Bass on the wall or something.
Some knots.
Yeah,
a picture of a
you think it would have been more
right?
It should have been more nautical, but it was just kind of like an office you would see like in an office building. Like
it should look like Misconduct Tavern. Like it should have like more of that.
It should have a lot of mirrors.
Yes, have mirrors, like nets with like fake plastic starfish. Like you'd make it look like you're there like an Arthur Treacher's.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
sparse. And it just smells like fish the whole time.
It's just awful.
And we spent a lot of time in here, so they had that set ready. It wasn't like just a drive-by. We're in there twice at least.
But is his bedroom attached, do you think, to his office? Yes. Or do he have a separate bedroom?
No, I think it is. Based on Doc's bedroom being attached to the medical office, I think that's how it goes. Yeah.
Fair enough.
The fact that Isaac doesn't sleep under the bar is so sad.
Or that he has to share a room with what's his face? Barry Keys. Or at least exercise equipment.
Stubing's on the phone with the Dennisons. Confirms that they're going to meet him up in Mazatlan, which is our second Mazatlan, means land of deer. And he kind of fills him in on the plot that this couple is taking care of them and everything's fine. There's like a thing Stubing says that makes me think like the dad was like, "What? You left my child with these strangers?" But then he gets off the phone real quick. So Theo goes swimming right after that. Basically, Stubing's like, everything's great. And then he jumps in the pool. Everybody's having a good time. He gets out of the pool, and Sandy Duncan's like, "Oh, you could be in the Olympics." And then she's like, Theo's like, "Listen, it's too hard to say Mrs. Baker. I don't have time for that. Can I just call you Mom?"
Oh.
And then she quickly agrees to it and then like dabs him with a towel for like an hour and a half. It's Theo is taking to this mission like Suzanne Summers did that first episode.
Oh.
It's just like he had a plan.
Oh, it's full speed ahead.
Executing it expeditiously.
And he knew he didn't have a lot of time.
He found a mark in Sandy Duncan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's a mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
weird, right, Tom? Like, I know you think that Jim Stafford is like standing behind her with a clenched fist. But I mean, he had nothing to do with that one. If anything, they did a cutaway to him, and he was like, you know,
Was he even around? I don't remember that. Was he
Yeah,
just kind of like, oh,
He's
I'm
still
at
in
the
his
bar.
tuxedo.
They're
Still
having,
just tuxedo
yeah,
wandering.
he's like, the wife's happy. It's all
they
right.
were
Do
never
whatever you
not in
got to
the scene
do.
together. They were always in the scene. Always.
And it's funny because you wouldn't think a cruise would be somewhere where a guy with hair that brittle would want to be without a hat or something.
Right.
His
And
hair
let me
was
tell you, that was
great.
a Bobo pool. That was just like a regular pool. Like that's
Oh,
just
nice
like a
2
cement
foot
and ground.
pool.
It's
This is
kind of,
great.
yeah, it was kind of like lame.
Yeah.
Like,
What are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah, that's not even the good pool
Yeah.
they've been using. That was
Like,
like
what
a
do we-
second pool.
It's
He shouldn't
lame.
be that close to chlorine with his brittle hair like that.
No.
Yeah.
No. Awful.
So
Huh.
so yeah, they go that's the scene. Like basically is like, hey, can I
Yeah.
call you mom? And everybody's like, yes, and nobody steps in.
Mm.
Like does child services have an Aqua unit? Like that's what really needs to happen.
They just
They
couldn't
should have
get
been
to
right alongside this boat. Like just like at the end of
Yeah.
the DiCaprio movie where they're trying to bust them on the sea. Like it's just like this is
Yeah.
awful.
You figure they're trying to board the ship like Greenpeace at this point. Like, no, we've got to stop this.
Yeah,
No,
right.
Yeah.
Sea Shepherd
Yeah.
style.
She was living her best life, though. I got to tell you, she was like all grins. Her eyes were looking good. Like she was like.
Richard Baker was probably like, you know what? He's probably like, let her have it. You know what I mean?
Did you miss that, Mike? Taylor, did you miss that?
I think I did.
Zombie.
I'm sorry.
This is not going to be a show where we go back and hit our
Fair enough.
joke again. That's not going to be what we're doing. So, all right. Julie goes to Connie's room to confront her about her coup attempt. Basically, the Wild West idea was like in a drawer behind a box. So this woman's just like overtly stealing ideas.
Or Julie's super paranoid about her ideas. If she's hiding them in that, it was behind 2 shelves, the third file on the right-hand side.
No offense, Julie. I think you do a great job. Did we really need to have a whole file about, we should wear cowboy outfits? Like,
Yeah, don't just relax, Julie.
It's not that complicated.
No.
Connie doesn't understand why Julie still tries to help her out. But then she immediately shows off the flowers that Meryl gave her.
Yeah.
And for a minute, I was like, oh, man, Steuben, you creep.
Yeah, it's creepy.
All part of the plan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the flowers turn out they're just a trap.
Oh,
Gopher calls Connie.
Wait, you think Gopher?
Steuben.
You think Gopher sent the flowers as well?
They said it later that he did.
Okay,
Yeah.
I missed that. I missed it. Okay.
Oh yeah. So I don't think that the what's his face was even interested in her.
Oh, I think he was.
The captain. Really? I
was.
thought he was disgusted by her. He was like,
Well, at the end.
Well, at the end, but he's
playing both
crazy.
sides. He's trying to keep her in line as a captain, but he's trying to get her in the sack as a man.
Damn.
Yeah, I didn't get that vibe. I thought he was just kind of like,
Really? He's like walking around with her on
Yeah.
his arm and everything. I don't know. He seemed kind of.
yeah, but he's the captain. That's kind of what he does. She's like wearing red sequin. She's like the hot thing. Like,
So if
he wants to feel.
if she looked like the old guy's wife, you think Steuben would have been walking
No.
around? No, exactly.
Yes, I think he still
Men,
would have
right?
been maybe like, okay.
Although Steuben went to, fell apart when it came to John Ritter in a redheaded wig, a few episodes
He
ago.
really
So
did. He's like a bull. So the conceit is that Gopher calls Connie as Captain Steuben and tells her that there's a special guest, Mr. Humberton, and that he wants her to give the guest special attention, which is fine. That sets it up nicely.
Forgot about him. Yeah.
They don't let Fred Grandy do a Steuben impression, which would be pretty easy, right?
what do you mean?
They literally had Gavin MacLeod voice over Gopher lip syncing to what he's saying. Come on.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it wasn't a good
Come
edit.
on.
It wasn't a good edit either.
Like, it's Steuben. Oh, I think you should wear that slut dress.
You
Thank
look marvelous.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
done. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That took me out of what would have been a better scene.
Yeah.
It's funny. I growing up in a military family, we moved a lot, and we moved to the Marshall Islands. And there was this girl named Kelly Coffee. I thought she was
That sounds
cute.
made up.
Yeah.
And this guy that I knew,
Brenda Milk.
who I like just made friends with, called Kelly Coffee on the phone as me without me knowing it. And like, oh, why don't you meet me at the pool? So I was like, he told me he did this after he did it. So I scrambled, right? I'm just saying this is where somebody doing an impersonation of you can go wrong. And I was
What
like,
happened though?
I better get there, right? Oh,
Yes,
wow.
ma'am.
Kelly, she's going to be there. She thinks it's me. She never showed up.
No.
Aww.
Never showed up.
That's a
Was it
bummer.
could your friend do a good Mike Taylor impression? Is that what gave you pause?
6th grade, Mike Taylor. Yeah. He did a grade 6th grade me in 6th grade.
I could do it now.
Yeah, it's not that difficult.
Hey, Carol Crawford, give me a call. Hey, I don't want to talk to you in person. I'll be hiding. I'll be looking the other way because I can't talk to women face to face. Well, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
But here we have Kelly Coffee.
Kelly, oh, God.
Kelly Coffee.
Oh, God.
She's dating
So
the waiter
amazing.
from the Bahamas. All right. So the Wild West party begins. So it seems like it's a big hit, but I have a question.
Same band, right?
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
You go first.
Are we going to have the same question?
You're the
Oh,
guest.
I
You
might
go
have
first.
one too.
Where did they get all this? Like, how did they get?
Yes.
Where did they get
Hay?
everything?
Where do you
For
get
this
hay on a
party?
ship?
Where do
You
you get
were
hay?
going. You were going on a cruise on the Gulf of Mexico. Why are you bringing giant cowboy hats and bolo ties and all this stuff? You don't know.
Why does Isaac have a giant white mustache on? I never
Right.
understood that either.
How is the entertainment? I mean, like they do have like a part, but how does everyone know to pack that? And like,
Everybody
yes.
is dressed to the cowboy nines. It is
Everybody.
ridiculous. There's no way
Yes.
you packed for that.
yes,
Where is
Unless
Sandy
when
Duncan
they
putting
stopped
all her
in-
cowboy stuff? She's got giant photos in a frame of her children.
Well,
There's
in
no
her
way.
unless they
defense,
were told
yeah.
at
they
port
weren't. Julie
when
made
they
it
stopped at
sound
one
like
of
it
the
was-
ports.
Right.
I know. Yeah. Magic.
Okay. We all had the exact same thought.
Yeah, it's weird.
So the crew fills Julie in on the plan to get Connie back, and Julie kind of protests until she doesn't, but it's not like, thanks for having my back, guys, or something like that. It was, again, it was kind of, maybe to your point, Tom, she's trying not to be catty, but I wouldn't be the bigger person, so good for Julie.
No, good for Julie. Good for Julie.
All right. So Connie shows up in this
professional.
scandalous red dress again.
Right.
And she goes right over to Steubing and Mr. Humbertson, and she really turns on the charm, and it does not go well. So Humberton tells Connie that he only strolls the deck with his wife, and then his wife shows up, and they walk off. So strike one. And then Steubing is just mortified. She's wearing the dress that he told her not to do. They never really said who Humberton was, but it made it sound like he was an important guy, and he's just been embarrassed.
Mhm.
Sure.
And he's old. He's very old.
Yes, he's very old. So maybe he's like a boat executive or something.
That's
Maybe
what I
he
was
invented
thinking. Yeah.
boating.
Some big wig.
But again, just like the last time that we had a boat executive, Steubing grabs Connie and drags her out of the dining room, just like he did to his ex-wife in the first
Like
episode.
Stacey Steubing all over again.
That's his move. So Steubing's pissed. He is mad. So Tanya, to your point, even if he was interested, the duties of the captain come before the duties of a man.
That's right.
At least as Steubing's concerned.
Let's not forget.
Boats
he's
before
married to-
hoes.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, I didn't see that one coming.
So Steubing fires Connie in his office, like right away. Like, you're fine. You're out. Julie comes in and tries to explain what happened. Steubing still doesn't care. You're still fired. So she's fired, right? Like there's no get back.
No.
She's fired. But Connie's still like, why are you trying to help me and all that stuff? And Julie's like, she sees potential in her. I don't know.
It's a bit much.
Like,
it was a little much.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be mad.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Well, we know Julie's a little crazy too. So this is then just part of Julie's crazy. Yeah, I just think she,
Yeah.
But I do wonder if, like, they didn't even do a scene where it was like, once again, the crew has Julie's back. And we didn't get like a little like, thanks guys for once again having my back. But
just like you did last Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. Last week when I was trying to marry that 90-year-old. Oh, we should have had you guys on last week. There was a character named Buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was a scumbag, though. He was a real scumbag.
Have you met my husband?
Not like this guy. Not like
no.
Not like Buddy Franklin. All right. And then my absolute favorite part of this whole show, and maybe this entire series, happens. So Julie's basically like, I think you have potential. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'll try to be better, blah, blah, blah. But there's no indication that she got her job back. So that's kind of where we're going to end. And then door knocks. And who is it? It's Mr. Humberson. And his wife is asleep. And he has come to walk the deck with Connie.
Yeah, take me on that private tour.
Me and Michelle were watching it. And we just like went, it was so great. And they never indicate that he did not sleep with her on the deck. Like, it was just tremendous. He was like, I will have that. I will have that if that offer still stands.
And it wasn't like she was like, get away, or are you
like
kidding?
She didn't slap him, or I'm not that kind of girl. They didn't give her any.
And she needed a job. I'm just saying, it's rich. Who knows?
Yeah.
She had shady ways too. So
Humberton, dirty dog.
Dirty dog.
I laughed so hard at that. I laughed again today when I watched it.
Well, because it's funny because it was so unnecessary. Like the storyline was wrapped up, and you're like, "Oh, damn, okay."
It was a zinger. It was like boom.
Now, Mike, do you know that the people who wrote this storyline, which I think was the best one, of the episode, were the people who wrote our favorite one, the murder one?
Really? Okay.
So
well, that makes sense.
Out for those guys. They might be the best writers. All right, we're back to the swingers. Like I said, this is just dying on the vine at this point. We're just crawling to the end.
Yeah. I feel like they were just trying to cram so much into this episode, and there was too much like heavy topics. Like,
and that probably got the most time, right? That storyline, the heavy one. Like,
I think so. Yeah, because there's so many. Yeah.
Steve Allen's too distracted by Maisie being in the same room with the insurance guy, too distracted to hook up with Lonnie Anderson in 1977, which seems like a huge distraction, but shows he loves his wife. Meanwhile, Jack's trying to close the deal with Maisie, but Maisie's kicking it out
aggressively.
Jack had been playing it cool for a while, but now it's time to sell that insurance.
Like, I've had enough of being cool.
Right. So she mentions that her husband's next door, and Jack's like, whoa, you freak. And he says, call me a prude, but I want no part of this kinky scene like this. So Jack's like, I'm out of here.
Whoa, hard line.
So good for Jack.
Good for Jack.
The next morning, the two of them finally stop the charade, and they realize that they love each other and they should be happy together, blah, blah, blah. And then they make it sound like they're going to bang in both of their hotel rooms.
They did.
So that's a really good marriage counselor, it sounds like.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess it worked. I feel bad for the people who were staying in the room next door, because all they've been doing is yelling and screwing.
Just bitching and moaning, doors opening and closing, and got up already, you know?
Yeah.
So in like 10 years, when we're all there in our relationships, are we going to do this? Are we going to all book a cruise and like book separate rooms and try to? I don't know if you heard, but the last episode of this, if we actually make it to 250, we're going to do it on a cruise.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
We'll all be there.
God.
Yeah.
Just make sure you get the right cruise. Because remember,
well, by then we'll have so much money from the success of this thing.
We'll be loaded by then.
Yeah,
It won't be a
we'll
thing.
buy our own boat.
Yeah, we'll lease our own cruise ship for the weekend.
You could actually buy the Love Boat because that boat is tiny.
They got 600 people in there. I mean, we've only seen
600 people. Like
Have
sardines.
you seen the cruise ships now?
It's comical. I don't. How do they even float?
Oh,
I don't even know how they float. It baffles me how big these cruise liners are.
yeah.
All right. The denizens have arrived to collect their child. This goes on for a while.
This goes on way too long.
This is like 6 or 7 minutes of one.
They had the sad music, and then this, and then that, and then she said, I don't have a mom. How can you do this to your mom? I was like, good Lord, wrap it up, people. Like,
so,
jeez.
So a couple things. The mom thanks the Bakers for taking care of Theo, but the dad doesn't say anything for a while. And I just assumed he was stewing.
He's pissed.
He's mad at the kid. He had to travel to Mazatlan. Like, he's fighting with his wife. Tanya, how old do you think the actor is that played Theo's dad?
Oh, I don't know. Probably like 32.
He's 37. And the 70s were rough.
Funny.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell, like, crazy facial hair. Hair was crazy. You had no idea.
47, and this guy is 10 years younger than Stewie. That is wild.
Oh, God.
So it's been a long run for Mr. Dennison. He's just like, I'm just tired. I'm just so tired. My dad would have kicked the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah.
If I had run away and made him travel to Mazatlan to get me.
Well, first off, I feel like my parents would have been like, all right, I'll get you when you come back. I'm not going any place. Like, maybe, and when you get home, then I'm going to beat your ass. Like,
Like, can't you just put him in like the freezer for a couple days and handcuff him to something safe and then feed him and then? But yeah, I agree.
I think it is the 70s. I bet you that dad beat the snot out of that kid off camera.
Oh yeah,
beat the crap out of him.
Like, they're not even down that little chute, and he's getting
getting smacked in the head. Like, they didn't get you could beat somebody in public.
Yeah,
I remember seeing a kid get smacked in a grocery store like a couple times. Like, it wasn't.
What do you think they do with that room on the way back? They have an empty room now. Do you think that Jim Stafford takes that room?
Probably do whatever shadiness he's doing. Yeah, he probably does.
Sandy Duncan finally acts like an adult and tells Theo the downside to harboring a runaway. And this ends up getting Theo to go back with his parents. And now Sandy Duncan is cured. Everything's fine.
Everything's good.
Closure.
So we go to the epilogue. Connie, somehow, I just assumed they would have like shot her out of a cannon or made her walk off the plank or something. What was that thing you had, Mike, where they run you over with the boat across the
bottom? Keel hauled. Keel hauled is the term. Yeah.
Like,
something.
You know,
at the very least, shame or
insubordination that she performed here. Secondly, she probably killed that old man with her red dress.
We didn't see him again, did we?
Nope. Would be great if they had had him in a Viking funeral in the background or something like that. But again, Julie kind of comes off soft. I understand your point, Tanya, about not being catty and being the bigger person, but I don't know. Julie was
professional.
Yeah, she's at work.
She had to keep her job. She's at work. Her job is to be nice to people. So it's just part of her, character, personality, and
And her job's everything to her.
But she's not a guest.
Right, so
Connie's not a guest. She's just an insubordinate.
It doesn't matter. You still have that professionalism. Just like when I was bartending, I was always professional.
Yes, that was the word that I definitely always thought of with you, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like you always held yourself to a much higher standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we tried to achieve, but failed.
Yes, you were the Julie McCoy of bartending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold your liquor.
No.
The swingers story ends with them being super mushy. Again, just great.
Yeah.
Old people.
Not a fan. Barbie and Jack get together, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be kind of they've done that a couple times where like the leftover couple gets together.
Yeah.
Because, that's that sea air. Everybody's just horned up. So good for them. And then the Bakers are going to adopt, which they never really said that they couldn't have their own child. So I don't know if that means that they kind of want an 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Like they kind of like that pickup there. I guess that's the concept.
Well, weird thing. I read like the secret notes on this, and apparently what happened is they did adopt a child, but as soon as that child turned 9, they did like a Leo Caprio. They returned it because she only wanted an 8-year-old son forever. Yeah, that didn't make the show itself.
No,
but
that's weird.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
funny she was carrying a giant photo of Theo. And they just see the other one like strewn somewhere in the ocean.
Yep. Goodbye. Yep.
That is something that they had on cruise ships, is a photographer that would come around and take photos of you and the family.
There you go.
So I'm surprised she didn't get one. Yeah, she didn't have.
We just had an episode where Gopher had to take photos of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gopher doesn't have a photographer.
Because for the birthday photos. Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't have a photo person. What a great crew member that would be too.
Yeah.
That feels like kind of like, if that's something that's like an actual thing, that'll pop up.
It is.
Like the chef.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is an actual thing.
We didn't have, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't have any crew members this week.
No.
Probably because we had 58 different cast members, but.
And no Rick the waiter, or Rick the
or
Vince. Assistant, or Vince.
Vince, the guy who fed on the steps.
Yeah, none of that. There
was no time.
Doc wasn't making out with anyone.
No.
Very light Doc episode. We've had a couple heavy ones with him, but not a lot.
Alf's dad.
Hey, Willie.
Still alive.
So you said Jim Stafford kisses Julie? I missed that part.
On the mouth when they're getting off the boat. I was like, what is that about? I had to watch it twice.
So when he announces that they're going to adopt, and then Sandy Duncan and Julie hug, and they're kind of having a good time, and Jim Stafford just kind of goes off on a little bit of a rambling tangent. He's like, hey, whatever, I didn't know if I would go for adoption, but she said a kid's a kid. Anyway, women, you can't change their minds once you get them. And he's just kind of like, I think that was probably a song or something like that. That
was where the lyrics to Spiders and Snakes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought I was looking at him right there when you were doing that. I mean, with the tux and everything, I was like, oh my God.
Well, it's funny with him. He wasn't known for his acting. So like, I would say like at the end of the day with this episode, he does not have some chops, as they say. He's just not a good actor.
And we've never, it's only been 8 episodes. We haven't figured out yet how it works in terms of like, do they have all these stories and it's just, hey, I'm available this week.
Yeah.
Because like having a singer-songwriter in the husband role of this emotionally charged plot seems like weird. That was a weird couple. Like, how did Sandy Duncan and Jim Stafford get together? What's that backstory? Is he an eye surgeon? They never even said what they did.
No, nothing. Like we knew about their son's situation. We didn't even know what they did.
Nobody's job came up this week. We don't know what anybody's backstory was.
I'm trying to think. No, aside from Connie, right?
Yeah,
that's the only one that was identified, but she didn't really have a job.
Isaac, the bartender, was very clear.
Well, I mean,
I know. We knew that. We knew that he was a paper boy.
There you go. There you go. Good point. It's a good call.
He's doing another job on this damn boat. Because did the parents have to miss work to go get him?
I mean, I would assume. Oh, they beat the crap out of him in Mexico, and there's no laws down there. He never made it home.
That's the slime.
Beat the snot out of him all the way.
It's going home in a box.
Just nothing.
Why did the parents just get on? How do you know they left though? Do they actually show them leaving? Why didn't they just stay with him in the room?
Because they weren't on the guest star list. Like they didn't
Oh,
have
they weren't on
time.
the
They're like,
best
we
list.
didn't list these people.
But they wrote the note. What if they wrote another note saying, "Hey, like
We would like
I'm
to
just gonna
upgrade.
stay." Yeah, they're
That's
just
a good
staying,
point.
and it never says that they get off the boat.
Well, I think it's because he
Maybe they're
had
like,
one
"Ooh."
ticket.
What if they're the
Maybe
one
he had
next to
one.
me? They're just hanging out in the background.
They just show up every now and again, like Frank Grimes.
he's just in the background wailing on the kid. I'm still mad.
Oh,
Still mad she made me get on this boat.
Oh my god!
All right, King of the Hill. This is not the best episode of Love Boat.
No.
By any means.
No. The episode I watched by mistake was way better.
Excellent.
I
I cannot
so
wait
much to say
for
that.
5,
Well, it's season
6
8.
years from now. We'll
Oh,
be back
season
for
8.
that one.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're
Yeah.
But yeah, like one storyline that was good, one that was good for like 10 minutes, and one that was inappropriate for this program. So
awkward.
Yeah.
So awkward.
All right, Tanya, you're the guest. So you get to go first on this. Who's the captain of the week? What was the best thing, person, storyline, moment of the episode for you?
The best. Oh God. I don't even know. The best, I think, is having my mind blown that they had the Western on a boat and everyone was dressed up and like I was just like, what is how? Like, I think that was probably my favorite because it was unfathomable. I don't know. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like
it doesn't make any sense. It was so random and just so like.
What are the odds that 600 people own at home
Cowboy hats?
Right.
Yes.
Let alone think to pack it. Like everybody has something on.
Like,
there should have been like one guy just wearing
Although-
street clothes.
Although I just remember something. I have pictures of me in the it was probably like the late 70s, in the 80s. That was a big thing, like style wise, but still, like
you weren't bringing.
Not everyone would.
Yeah, but you need supplies.
How hard is it to pack a hat? Like, you
why
can't
wouldn't
pack
they all
that in a
just
regular
carry
suitcase, you'll
bottles of
crush it.
whiskey?
And you can't just throw a cowboy hat in a suitcase and like shut it.
Right.
It's gonna be flat.
Not like
You gotta have like
tuxedo.
I didn't see hat boxes.
I know.
Not this episode at least.
No.
Well, I
Yeah,
think that's a good
tuxedos and cowboy, so I think
gotta
that
bring
was
a lot
really
of
my
crap.
I
favorite
realized
of, like,
I had this. I did not have any country western gear, so it was one or the other. So I guess I would have gone.
that would have been good.
Mike,
Yeah.
what's the best? What's the captain of the week for you?
For me, the captain of the week is Julie's integrity. Yes.
Very nice.
I liked the way she handled herself, and her overall professionalism and dedication to her role on the ship.
I feel like I really came down on the wrong side of history with that. You guys have convinced me that she was being the bigger person and not weak.
Yeah.
My captain of the week, it was Steve Allen for a little bit for me because I thought those zingers were good, but that they just completely ran out of steam. And I thought Isaac was good early because he kind of found out the plot, but then he didn't get to do anything.
No, he didn't do much.
He wasn't
with it
even
at all.
involved in all the crazy mix-em-ups.
Mm-mm.
So I'm giving it to Mr. Humberton walking in to get laid after his wife went to bed.
That's funny.
Knew it.
Okay.
It cracked me up then. It cracked me up again today. And it cracked me up just now.
Fair enough.
All right, walk the plank. Worst thing, Mike. You go first on that one.
I got to say the worst thing is the Sandy Duncan dead child storyline as a whole, because it just was. I just feel like you didn't. There were other ways to like sort of you could have something. It was just a lot. It was a lot, and it was uncomfortable. Not a fan. Not a fan. It's a love boat. It's a death boat.
I agree. Yeah, the love boat, but it did show love in a certain degree, like.
It did.
But yeah, I agree. There were better ways. That was definitely like it was.
It wasn't
too much.
zany. This is we've always had zany. This wasn't zany.
I love zany.
Because of that, this was probably the most serious show we've ever had.
Yeah.
And, nobody needs that.
Nobody wants that.
No.
I mean, it wasn't that serious.
No, life's hard.
No.
It was pretty serious.
Yeah, for us.
Well, it was just weird.
So we have a unanimous worst of the week, basically.
Yeah.
Mike, you want to give our all our plugs?
Sure. Our email address is theloveboatproject@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, The Love Boat Project, on Instagram @The Love Boat Project, and we're also on Facebook, The Love Boat Project Group. Can also be found.
And soon to be on podcast form.
Soon to be on podcast form. Soon to be on Spotify and iTunes. Coming soon.
How about that? And then this tuxedo will be superfluous.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear it every week. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tanya Joy, for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and we will definitely have you back before that Alf episode that you watched by accident.
So good. Thank you for having me. It was tons of fun.
All right. We will see you next week. Thanks everybody for watching. And we still don't have a really good sign off. We probably need to come up with a good sign off, but this will not be the week for it. So
Next time.
don't run away from your children.